The data showed that over 1,000 Black and East African men had their vehicles searched for contraband where none was found. And what had been the justification to do that?
So the Torguson case involved a guy named Adam Torgerson. He was driving in Litchfield late at night, and the police stopped his vehicle based on an equipment malfunction. It was like a light was out or something, which is a valid reason to stop the vehicle. But when they approached the vehicle, they said that they smelled marijuana, and that was the reason to expand the search, the only reason to expand that search. His child and his wife were also in the car. The district court held, given that at the time, 2021, small amounts of marijuana and hemp and medical marijuana were illegal, it should be treated the same way that Minnesota treats alcohol, which is you can't expand the search of a vehicle based on the smell of alcohol alone, so you shouldn't be able to expand the search of a vehicle based on marijuana alone. Ultimately, the Court of Appeals and the Minnesota Supreme Court agreed. Before, a cop could justify and say, hey, the smell of marijuana means that I get to search this car. And now it can be one of the factors, but it can't be the only factor. One of the things that this brief pointed out was some great research done by some former colleagues of mine, Amanda Broadhag and Jay Wong. They had a case that involved a Black man whose vehicle was searched based on the smell of marijuana alone. And they had argued to the district court using data that they pulled from Minneapolis Police Department records that showed over 1,000 Black and East African men were stopped in the city of Minneapolis in a one-year period from 2019 to 2020 that had their vehicles searched where nothing contraband was found. That wasn't cited in the Minnesota Supreme Court brief, but I'd like to think it gave them some pause about the impacts of this ruling. When someone's pulled over in Minnesota, the reason for pulling them over isn't going to be that the car smells like weed. Cop can't smell weed as the car drives by, but it could be a reason to expand the search of the vehicle. The law now says that it can be one factor, it can't be the only factor. Another way that sometimes I teach expansion of stop, if I'm teaching a group of people that's learning about it, is there's this Jay-Z song, 99 Problems, and he talks about when he stopped and the cop says, do you know what I'm stopping you for? And he says, because I was going 55 and a 54. So one of the reasons I like to use the song 99 Problems to illustrate expansion of stop is the stop starts because of speeding. And then it escalates to, can I look into your glove box? Can I look into your trunk? And Jay-Z says you'll need to get a warrant for that. And he's correct. To expand stop, each incremental intrusion, you need to have a justification. You can't just go on a fishing expedition. And that comes from a Supreme Court case, Arizona versus Gant. Per se, you need to get a warrant to search a person, place, thing, but there's certain exceptions to needing to get a warrant. And one of those exceptions is the automobile exception. To search a vehicle and look for contraband, you need to have a suspicion that there will be contraband in that vehicle. And smell of marijuana alone no longer rises to that level since marijuana isn't contraband. I think there's a lot of new ways that marijuana laws and this ruling, and I'm imagining other rulings coming down based on the changes of our laws, based on the changes of marijuana laws, will impact Minnesotans really broadly. And some of it could be prior convictions for marijuana that were deemed felonies that will now not be, and how does that impact criminal points going forward, and where people look at the sentencing guidelines. This particular case really impacts the stop and search of a motor vehicle and the contraband that's found if it was just justified on the smell of marijuana. And it also gets rid of the ability for, not that an officer would ever do this, but to just pretend that there was the smell of marijuana. There's we've got body-worn cameras. We don't have body-worn cameras that have scent equipped with them. And I think that was a really interesting statistic that the data showed that over 1,000 Black and East African men had their vehicles searched for contraband where none was found. And what had been the justification to do that?